My husband thought he could threaten me with divorce. Inside the house I inherited myself. Fine. Now he and his mother can live together, far away from me. My name is Megan. I'm 31 years old. I work as a project manager at a tech company. And for a long time, I thought my life was pretty normal. Married, a young daughter, a beautiful house in a nice neighborhood in Connecticut. The kind of thing that from the outside looks like a butter commercial. But nobody sees what happens on the inside, right? His name is Tyler. Tall, handsome, polite, and completely incapable of making a decision without checking with mommy first. And mommy? Her name is Linda, a woman who acts like she founded American royalty, with a say in absolutely everything, including my uterus, my marriage, and, believe it or not, the decor of my house. You're probably wondering, Megan, how did you get yourself into this mess? I still ask myself the same thing. We met in college. Tyler was that smiley guy who seemed harmless, the kind who holds the door open for you and lends you his jacket if it gets cold. At first, it felt like a dream. But you know that feeling that something's off, even when everything seems right? On our third date, we were having dinner at a cute little Italian place. Dim lighting, red wine, those stupid candles that always go out with the breeze. We were laughing, talking, until his phone rang. He looked at the screen and, I swear on everything holy, practically threw himself across the table to answer it. "Hi, Mom," he said, with that excited tone only dogs use when they see their owner walk through the door. He stayed on the phone, 15 minutes, talking about what underwear he should wear for his calculus exam the next day. I laughed. I thought it was cute. Cute. If I could go back in time, I'd slap myself. One of those slaps that turns your face. But I kept going. Because, I don't know, he was kind. And honestly, after so many jerks who only cared about bars and football, someone who called his mom actually seemed refreshing. But there's a difference between loving your mom and being her emotional appendix. Time passed. We dated, got engaged. The proposal was a disaster. A half-baked speech that mentioned his mom 5 times. And yes, I counted. And me, with my foolish heart, said yes. The wedding planning? A soap opera. No, scratch that. A tacky reality show. Linda, my lovely future mother-in-law, tried to control everything. From the bouquet to the color of the ceremony candles. I suggested lavender for the bridesmaids' dresses. She made a face like I'd suggested drawing pentagrams on the church floor. And Tyler? Just do whatever you and my mom think is best, sweetheart. Sure. Because in this case, apparently the bride was me and her. If I had known what was coming, I would have run that very day. But like every horror story disguised as a romance, I went on. We got married, we moved in together, we had a daughter. And Linda never left. Even when she wasn't physically there. She lived inside my husband's head, rent-free. And all this, inside a $2 million house. A house that, by the way, was mine. Just mine. Inherited from my dad. But of course, they thought it belonged to them. Until the day I tried to breathe, and they threatened to take even that away from me. The first time I stepped into Linda's house, I felt it. Everything was spotless, like a showroom. The pictures perfectly aligned, the rugs without a single fiber out of place, and that artificial lavender smell that seemed sprayed on a timer. We had just started dating, and Tyler insisted I come over for lunch. I thought it was sweet. I even tried. "You're going to love my mom," he said, with that boyish smile I'd only understand much later. The moment I crossed the door, she gave me that look. A plastic smile, but her eyes scanned me from head to toe like a lie detector. "So, you're Megan." It was a simple sentence, but the tone made it clear. I was an intruder. At the table, I felt like I was at a gourmet interrogation. "What do your parents do? Do you have siblings? Do you cook?" I tried to answer politely, but every response felt recorded, judged, and disapproved. When I mentioned that my parents were retired public school teachers, she made a sound in her throat, almost imperceptible. Almost. After lunch, she asked me to help with the dishes. And there, in front of the sink, water running, silverware clinking, she slipped in. Tyler's always been very selective. He likes things well done, well presented, well cared for. She looked at me, smiled, went back to drying a plate. I just stood there, holding a glass like it was some kind of explosive device. The realization started to hit, slowly, but it hit. After that, she started dropping by, once a week, then twice. When we moved in together, she brought over a framed picture from her house to make the space more cozy. It was a childhood photo of Tyler, him sitting on a swing with a stitched caption, "Mommy's little boy." When I suggested we put the picture away, Tyler looked visibly uncomfortable. "It's just a picture, Meg. Relax. It's not just a picture. It's a reminder of who really runs things here." Over time, I realized everything had to go through Linda's approval. The bedspread color, the kind of food I cooked, even the shampoo I used. Yes, shampoo. She once commented, "This scent, it's different. Not sure it suits Tyler." Sometimes I thought I was going crazy. I'd find myself crying quietly in the bathroom, brushing my teeth too hard, biting my lip until it bled. But it was real, constant, exhausting. Our engagement became the next stage. Everything had to have the Armstrong family's elegance. That's how she referred to them. The Armstrongs. I was a Gallagher, apparently a step below. When choosing the flowers, I suggested lavender. Linda wrinkled her nose. "Lavender? That reminds me of laundry soap. Not appropriate for such a refined occasion." Tyler never gave an opinion. He never did. "Whatever works best, Meg. Listen to my mom. She knows about these things." The first time I was completely left out was at the engagement dinner. The table was long, full of guests, and I, the bride-to-be, sat at the end, while Linda and Tyler sat in the center. She gave the toast. She picked the wine. She thanked the guests for welcoming the newest member of the family. Newest member. Like I had joined a country club, not a relationship. I remember staring into my empty glass thinking, is this it? Is this really the life I'm signing up for? But then came his smile, his kindness, the eyes that had convinced me so many times that everything would get better. And I believed it, because it was easier than admitting I was slowly erasing myself. I remember one specific Sunday. The three of us were at her house, me, Tyler, and Linda, because, according to him, she made brunch, and it's important to keep the peace. Keep the peace. The main dish was some kind of baked omelet that looked like it came straight out of an 80s magazine. Linda placed a fork on my plate, half-heartedly, and said, "Don't worry, dear. Even if you're not a great cook, Tyler can always come eat here. You know that second when everything just freezes? Like the world turned down the volume?" I looked at Tyler, expecting some kind of reaction. Anything. But he just shrugged, slightly embarrassed, and mumbled, "That's just how she is, Meg. She doesn't mean anything by it." After that, I stopped trying to please her. At the time, I was still working long hours. I'd get home late, often exhausted, collapsed on the couch in my work clothes, makeup smudged, just craving silence. But I couldn't even nap, because Linda had a key to our house. Tyler gave it to her without asking me. "It's just for emergencies," he said. Emergencies like reorganizing the kitchen cabinets, or stopping by to check in on the baby's clothes, even before I was pregnant. She once showed up on a Saturday morning while I was still asleep. I woke up to find her in the living room, flipping through a Pottery Barn catalog. "Oh, Megan, I thought you'd be up already. Sleeping too much delays household productivity, you know?" I didn't answer. I had no strength left. I just went to the bathroom, closed the door, sat on the toilet lid, and stayed there, trying to remember who I was before all of this. My mom noticed once. During a short visit, she asked quietly, tiptoeing like she was walking on eggshells, "Sweetheart, are you still happy in this marriage?" I smiled. One of those fake smiles you learn to wear when you've run out of justifications. "Of course, Mom. Just tired." She didn't push, and I was grateful, because if she had asked again, I might have had to tell the truth, and I wasn't ready for that yet. The idea of getting a house of our own came as a relief, a disguised escape plan, wrapped up as a couple's dream. But even then, Linda interfered. We visited several homes. I wanted something modern, functional. She wanted Greek columns, beige carpet, and crystal chandeliers. Every time I pointed something out, she'd say, "Is that good for a child? This kitchen feels a little impersonal. This neighborhood doesn't have much family tradition." Family tradition. Like I was born into a tribe with no culture. In the end, I gave in. Exhaustion had become a quiet addiction. I kept telling myself it was just a phase, that things would get better. But deep down, I already knew. This wasn't my life. It was Linda's life, with my name signed at the bottom. When I got pregnant, I thought maybe, just maybe, something would change, that Tyler would grow up, that Linda would back off, that I'd finally have a space of my own, even if it was just the size of a crib. But the opposite happened. Linda started acting like the pregnancy was hers, and Tyler became a walking echo, an echo of his mother. At the first prenatal appointment, I wanted to go alone with him, something intimate, just the two of us. But when I got to the car, there she was, in the back seat, with a folder full of documents and a notebook. "I brought my notes from when I was pregnant with Tyler," she said, smiling. "It's always good to compare. Oh, I compared all right. My urge to throw up was instant, and not because of hormones. The following week, I came home from work and found one of the rooms with a sign hanging on the door. Grandma Linda's room. I thought it was a joke, but she hadn't just decorated the entire room. She'd brought a nursing chair and a picture frame with a photo of her holding some random baby. My daughter wasn't even born yet. I confronted Tyler. What the hell is this, Tyler? Why does she have a room here? He didn't get it. She just wants to be close. She's going to help with the baby, Meg. It'll be good for us. Help. Help is when someone gives you relief, not when they move into your life like an infestation. At the baby shower, she corrected me. On the microphone. I thanked the guests and said I was excited to build my own family. She cut in, "Our family, dear." Megan meant to say our family. Everyone laughed. I smiled, but inside, I bled. When my daughter was born, I thought things would be different, that seeing the baby in his arms would change Tyler. But no, he was dazed, nervous, and instead of supporting me, he called Linda before he even held his own daughter. She arrived at the hospital with flowers, a blanket embroidered with the baby's name, and a book titled, How to Be a Good Mom, Even If You're a First-Timer. I could barely sit, still sore, swollen, dazed, and Linda was already criticizing the name we'd chosen. Madison? Sounds too modern. Doesn't sound like a doctor's name. That first night at home, she insisted on sleeping over. To help, of course. I woke up in the middle of the night and found her in the baby's room, changing a diaper without even waking me. I thought you needed rest, dear. She's my daughter, Linda. My, such aggression, and must be the hormones, right? Each criticism was an invisible cut. You're holding the bottle wrong. You speak too loudly near the baby. You should do your hair better. Madison will grow up thinking that's normal. Tyler watched all of this in silence. Sometimes he'd ask me to go easy. Other times, he'd just leave the room like it wasn't his problem. One night, while I was nursing, he asked, "Have you thought about going back to work?" Back? I left 3 weeks ago, Tyler. It's just, my mom thinks it would be good. She can stay with Maddie during the day. My answer was a 1,000-ton silence. They wanted me out of the house, so she could stay. I spent weeks chewing on that thought. Going back to work? Leaving my newborn daughter with a woman who had treated me like a mistake from day one? No. But I also didn't know what to do anymore. I didn't feel like I owned my house or my routine. And the worst part, I didn't even feel like my daughter was mine. When Madison turned 2 months old, I got a surprise visit from my boss. She wanted to see how I was doing and share some team updates. A normal conversation until she said, "Linda called me. Said you might be ready to return earlier than expected." I froze. She called? She did yesterday. I thought you two had talked about it. No, we hadn't. Linda was inserting herself into my job. She was making decisions for me, and about me, as if I weren't capable of thinking for myself. That night, I confronted Tyler. Why is she calling my company? She was just trying to help, Meg. She's trying to take over my life. And you let her. He went quiet, then said, "I think you're overreacting." That sentence. That goddamn sentence. You're overreacting. It's what men say when they want to invalidate a woman without having to face reality. The next month, I pushed myself hard to go back to work. On my own terms. I found a job at a smaller company, with flexible hours. I wanted to take care of Maddie and still hold on to a part of myself that hadn't been swallowed up by motherhood. By motherhood, or by Linda. But of course, she criticized it. That new place doesn't even offer decent health insurance. How are you going to secure Madison's future? By working, Linda. Like any grown woman. She sighed like I was a rebellious, clueless teenager. But it wasn't just that. The visits increased. At first, they were just on weekends. Then Tuesday nights. Then Thursday mornings. Before I knew it, she was showing up every other day. One day I got home from work early and found her holding my daughter on the couch, watching an old video of Tyler as a baby. She looked at me and said, completely serious, "You should have seen him at this age. So much smarter." Excuse me? I don't mean anything by it, but it's true. He started crawling at 4 months. Madison's not even moving yet. I felt something tear inside. She was comparing my daughter to her son, right in front of me, to belittle me. And worse, Tyler, who was sitting there too, laughed. He laughed. I stood frozen. My hand trembled, holding my keys. My throat clenched. My eyes burned, but I wasn't going to cry. Not in front of her. Not anymore. After she left, I went into the nursery. Madison was sleeping. I knelt beside the crib and silently promised, "You won't grow up thinking this is normal. I swear you won't." On the outside, everything looked the same. The house, the routine, the good husband who always seemed so helpful when others were watching. But inside, I was shrinking. I started having panic attacks in the bathroom. I'd lie on the cold floor, my face pressed against the tiles, trying to breathe slowly while the baby cried in the other room, and Linda knocked on the door asking if everything was all right with the ungrateful little mom. One Tuesday afternoon, I left work early on purpose. I wanted to pick up my daughter from daycare before Linda did. Yes, she sometimes picked up my daughter, without asking me. Tyler said it was to give me a break, but that day, I wanted to be the mom, not the one being spared. I arrived, and the daycare coordinator looked surprised. "Oh, I thought Grandma was coming again. She texted earlier saying she'd be here." I swallowed hard. I picked up Maddie, put her in the car, and drove in silence, my hands slipping on the wheel from sweat. I got home and found Linda in the living room. "Oh, I thought it was my day." "No, it's mine." "Are you feeling guilty?" "I get it. Mom guilt is common in women who prioritize their careers. Women who prioritize their careers." She spoke as if being a full-time mom was a badge of purity, and anything outside of that was selfish. That same day, Tyler called me out to the porch. He had a serious expression. I thought maybe, just maybe, he'd finally acknowledge the weight I'd been carrying. But no. "We've been thinking," he started, and I already knew who "we" was. Maybe my mom could move in full-time, just for a few months. For what? To help. And she's getting lonely. It's hard for her to go home alone every day. She has a house. "Yeah, but she doesn't live here, Tyler." He sighed like I was the irrational one. "Meg, she only wants what's best for our daughter, and she's always helped me with everything. I trust her. And do you trust me?" "Of course." "Then why does everything I decide get undone by her?" He didn't answer. He just looked down. Then I noticed something else. Every time we argued, Linda showed up the next day, like he'd called her to complain. One time, we fought because he forgot my mom's birthday. The next day, Linda brought flowers. For me. With a card that read, "Mothers must understand their place." The worst part was that Tyler thought it was cute. I didn't recognize myself anymore. I looked in the mirror and saw a tired, bitter, disconnected woman. I stopped seeing friends. I even avoided my own mom. I didn't want questions. Or advice. Because if someone spoke the truth out loud, I'd have to act. And I wasn't ready yet. Update. Last night, something happened that shattered what little patience, pretending, and hope I had left. I got home exhausted after a never-ending day. My dad had gotten sick, my mom called me in a panic, and I rushed to the hospital straight from work. I spent hours between waiting rooms, tests, anxiety, and that sinking feeling that everything was falling apart. When I finally made it back home, around 10 at night, all I wanted was a shower and to see my daughter. I hugged Maddie in the hallway. She was already in her pajamas, smelling of lotion, with a crooked little bow in her hair. Linda appeared behind her with that condescending smile. She was a bit restless today. "I think she misses you," said sweetly, but it cut like a razor. I went to the kitchen to grab something to eat. The dinner dishes were still in the sink. Crumbs on the floor. Trash overflowing. Tyler came out of the office looking like he'd just woken up from a nap. "Is your dad okay?" he asked, still on the couch. "He'll be all right, but he's weak. He'll need ongoing care. I'm going to have to help more." He nodded, but with the same expression someone gives when you say, "The sink is clogged." Not, "My father is sick." I was eating a cold piece of toast standing up when I heard whispers from the living room. I got closer. Linda and Tyler were talking in hushed tones. When they noticed me, she straightened up quickly. "Megan, we were just talking." "About what?" "About priorities," she said, folding her arms. "You've been absent. Maddie feels it. And poor Tyler. He's dealing with everything alone." "Everything? Alone?" I nearly choked with rage. "Look at yourself," she continued, unfazed. "You come home late, bring all this stress with you, and still expect to be called a good mom?" I looked at Tyler. He said nothing. Then Linda said, "Tyler and I think maybe it's time to reconsider the family structure." "What do you mean?" I asked, my throat tight. She stared at me, like someone delivering an inevitable truth. "You're torn. Between your parents, your daughter, your job. Maybe it's not fair to Maddie. Maybe divorce is the healthier option." It took me a few seconds to process what I'd just heard. She was talking about taking my daughter from my house. And Tyler wasn't just listening. He was nodding in agreement. "You're threatening me?" I asked, staring directly at him. He took a deep breath. "Megan, if it keeps going like this, I don't know if this can work." I started laughing. A dry, nervous laugh that escaped like a bitter cough. This house is mine, Tyler. The child is ours. But that family idea you and your mom have, that's a joke. Linda looked at me with fake compassion. There's no need for this, dear. We can talk. Civilly. Civilly? After threatening me in my own kitchen? Then Tyler added, you wouldn't be able to handle this on your own. Not all of it. You know that. That was it. That sentence. That sentence destroyed the last piece of me that was still holding on. Update 2. I did what I never thought I'd have the guts to do. And for the first time in years, I felt like I could actually breathe. That night, after the veiled threat of divorce, after Tyler said I couldn't handle it alone, I didn't cry. Not this time. I went to the bathroom, shut the door, looked at myself in the mirror, and asked, is this it? Is this how it ends? The answer came from a silence I hadn't heard in a long time. No, it doesn't end like this. I waited for both of them to fall asleep. Then I went into the office and pulled out the folder where I kept the house documents. The deed, the transfers, the proof. That house, the one Linda was always trying to redecorate, the one Tyler acted like was his inheritance, was mine. 100%. Directly inherited from my father, with an exclusivity clause in my name. They thought I'd forgotten. That I was stupid. That I was too drowned to ever use what was rightfully mine. The next morning, while Linda was out with Maddie on yet another educational walk, and Tyler was still in the shower, I picked up the phone and called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. I called Ruth Atkinson, a woman, divorced, specialist in family law, famous for shredding ex-husbands who thought they could intimidate. I'm in, she said after hearing the details. But you'll have to be firm. Ready? I was more than ready. I was starving for it. That same day, she filed for exclusive recognition of property ownership and an emergency order to restrict third-party access to the home, including Linda. That afternoon, I packed a small bag. A backpack for me, one for Maddie. Just clothes and documents. When Linda came back holding my daughter, she found the door locked. I clapped from the front porch and said, with the calm of someone holding back a storm, you don't live here anymore. Excuse me? Grab your stuff and leave. She laughed. Megan, sweetheart, I know you're tired, but this is ridiculous. Tyler appeared behind her, shirtless, hair still wet, like it was just another Sunday and not the beginning of the fall of his empire. What's going on here? I'm returning your mom. Free shipping. He tried to laugh, but when he saw my face, he stopped. This is serious? You asked if I could do it alone. Well, I'm about to show you. I held up the envelope, the notice, the order. This house is mine, Tyler, and starting today, both of you are out. Linda started shouting, whining, saying I was cruel, ungrateful, unstable. Tyler, in shock, just kept repeating, you can't do this. I'm your husband. I have rights. Try it. Call someone. See what happens. He grabbed his phone, called his brother, then his dad. No one answered. Then he looked at me. Really looked. Like a man defeated, for the first time with nowhere to run. I have nowhere to go. Yes, you do. Go to your mom's house. That's where you should have stayed from the beginning. He stood there, holding his phone, like he was waiting for someone to show up and fix everything for him. For the first time, he seemed to realize he wasn't the hero of the story, just a grown man leaning on two women, one who coddled him like porcelain, and another who he thought would never stand up for herself. But Linda didn't give up easily. This is illegal, she shouted, shoving the notice at me with trembling fingers. You can't just kick me out like this. I can. And I already did. I helped build this home. No, you helped poison this home. Very different. She stepped forward, nearly crossing the threshold, and I said, Linda, take one more step and I'm calling the police. It'll be the last time you see this porch. The threat worked. She froze. Her eyes, once so sharp, started to quiver. That was fear. Fear of a woman who wasn't begging anymore, or asking, or pleading. She was commanding. As she gathered her things, the decorative pillows she bought herself, a hideous vase with dried flowers, a silver tray engraved with the Armstrong name like it was royal. Tyler tried one last move. Megan, look, we can work this out. Just us. No lawyers. Too late, Tyler. I was an idiot. But I'm Maddie's dad. We're a family. No, Tyler. You and your mother are a team. I'm Maddie's family. He went silent. For the first time, without a comeback. Linda, standing at the door, looked at me with the expression of a falsely martyred woman. One day your daughter will hate you for keeping her away from her grandmother. One day she'll thank me for teaching her that no one, not a grandma, not even a father, has the right to trample on a woman's dignity. They left, one after the other. The door slammed shut. I trembled, not with fear, with release. Minutes later, Ruth called. Order accepted, and the judge moved up the custody hearing. Thank you. You're stronger than you think, Megan. The next day, I changed the locks. Then I went to Maddie's school, updated the documents, and informed them that only I or someone I explicitly authorized could pick her up. I also sent a formal email to Tyler's family, stating that any attempt at contact outside of legal terms would be considered harassment. Tyler sent messages, lots of them. Can we talk? You're being extreme. I love you. It was all a misunderstanding. My mom didn't mean to threaten you. I was stuck in the middle. I can change. I read every single one in silence. I didn't reply. I saved them all. My lawyer thanked me. 2 days later, Tyler came back to the house with an envelope in hand. He found me at the door, steady. What's this? My clothes. What's left of them? Where are you going to stay? With Mom. Perfect for you two. He picked up the backpack and stood there for a moment like he expected me to soften. To say, come in, or let's talk, or even, I forgive you. But all he got was my steady gaze and silence. This doesn't have to end like this, he said, voice low, almost a whisper. But it will. And you know why. He nodded slowly, like a man who'd already lost the war but still tried to salvage some remaining pride. After he left, I sat down on the living room floor, hugged my knees, and stayed there. Alone, the house quiet, the silence echoing, and for the first time, it didn't feel empty. It felt mine. In the days that followed, I began to rebuild. I told my mom everything. She cried on the phone. Why didn't you tell me sooner, honey? Because I didn't even realize how deep I was. I'm so proud of you. Thank you. So what now? Now came the practical part. I started the formal divorce proceedings with a clear custody clause. Maddie would stay with me during the week, and he could see her on weekends, under conditions, and without interference from his mother. Of course, Linda didn't take it well. She sent messages, called, even showed up at the gate once with a bag of toys and a box of brownies. I didn't open the door. I sent her a written notice. If she showed up again, I'd call the police. She had a meltdown on social media. Posted a long rant about ungrateful women and toxic daughters-in-law who destroy families. I got screenshots from several friends. I didn't reply to any of it, just saved everything and sent it to Ruth. At work, I was more focused than ever. I started taking care of myself again. Therapy, better eating habits, a new hobby, gardening. And every night, I lay down with Maddie, told her made-up stories, tickled her, and whispered in her ear like a mantra, "You are strong, you are loved, and you are enough." Tyler tried to negotiate, sent flowers, wrote a 4-page letter saying he recognized his mistakes, that he'd been influenced by his mother, that he wanted to try again. He said he was in therapy, that he no longer lived with Linda, that he was sorry. I read the letter carefully, then I folded it and put it in a box with other memories that didn't deserve to be seen anymore. The hearing took place 2 weeks later. The judge was straightforward. The paperwork was clear. The deed was in my name. The records of invasive visits, the screenshots of messages, the testimonies from the nannies who had witnessed arguments, and the messages from Tyler saying I couldn't handle it on my own. The judge simply said, "Mr. Armstrong, I hope you've learned that you should never underestimate a determined woman." He walked out of the courtroom with his head down. I walked out with full legal custody of my daughter, undeniable ownership of my home, and the overwhelming feeling that, finally, the story was being rewritten by me. It's been 3 months since Tyler left the house, and you know what's crazy? The peace is so quiet that sometimes I pause and wonder if it had always been there, just waiting for me to make room. The house has changed, not just the walls, which are now free of pastel tones and Linda's tacky framed prints, but the energy. I can walk barefoot down the hallway without feeling the weight of judgment in the air. I put the curtains back, the ones she had taken down, changed the bedspread, donated everything she brought to help, everything. Even the glass jars she labeled with the word, order. Maddie is lighter. She sleeps better, laughs more, talks to me with a sparkle in her eyes. The other day she said, "Mommy, I like our house more now." Why, baby? Because it feels like it's breathing. And that's it. We're breathing. The routine is still hard. I'm a solo mom. I work full-time. I take care of the house. I deal with bills, Maddie's tummy aches, tough questions, and the grief of moments I once thought would last forever. But I'd rather live in this honest solitude than in that kind of company that made me doubt myself every step of the way. Tyler still sees his daughter on weekends. He sticks to the schedule, pays child support, and that's it. He's tried to reconnect a few times. sends polite texts, pretends he wants to do the right thing. But I know what he really wants: to return to the comfort we once had. Only that comfort cost me too much. And Linda? Linda is now officially banned from approaching my house. If she wants to see her granddaughter, she can do it during Tyler's legal visitation. And even then, with clear boundaries. She tried to provoke me. Sent a pathetic email saying that one day Maddie would understand who was truly present. I read it, took a deep breath, and deleted it. She doesn't understand. Being present isn't about showing up. It's about showing up with care. It's about respect. And that's something she never knew how to give. These days, I sleep with the bedroom door open, something I hadn't done in years. I have coffee on the porch. Let Maddie's toys stay scattered in the living room without feeling guilty. I invite my mom over for dinner. We laugh out loud, make a mess. And sometimes I lie next to my daughter and think, you won't grow up afraid, or quiet, or feeling like you need to shrink yourself to fit someone else's space. Do I regret anything? Only not doing this sooner, not realizing how strong I've always been.